Black Wrestlers You Should Know, February 13th, 2023. I'm Randy Ritchie on behalf of PPW, Premier Pro Wrestling. This is a series that we're doing one a day for Black History Month. And I'll tell you, if you think about it, a real game changer for this generation, soon to be probably the last generation as we're forming all this new generation of wrestlers, is Mark Henry. I can't say enough about Mark Henry, and I want you guys to think about a few things here that you probably didn't consider before, and why this guy has been such a fucking constant and a trailblazer. So, the first thing I want to talk about is these idiots and these glorified half-speed luchadors and AEW imitators and all that. They look at Mark Henry as a joke. The things that stick out in their minds about Mark Henry are, dark chocolate, or whatever the sillified gimmick was when WWE let Stephanie and Shane play Hollywood, I want to say bumping dickheads with Hollywood writers or script writers during that WWE sillified era. You know, they sillified the crap out of him worse than you could anybody. But what happened? The brother did what was asked of him. He got paid, and he handled his politics and came back from that being believable. Beyond believable. How many times has Mark Henry done that in his career? You know, you hear the idiots and the Reddit marks and the internet wrestling community and pro wrestling that really doesn't spend money on wrestling, tries to find ways to get free tickets and can I borrow your password to the network, and, you know, don't really create any revenue, but have the strongest opinions about the industry. They don't think about the fact that how many times has Mark Henry, quote, end quote, done the job and then came back in the upper half of the card over the last, I'm going to say 20 years? It was probably for 20 years, if I'm not mistaken. Did you know Mark Henry was the third black wrestler to hold a world title? Did you know at 359 pounds, Mark Henry could dunk a basketball? And at one point, at 350 pounds, I think it was 352 pounds, he had almost zero body fat. So what does that tell you? You know, Mark Henry was probably, I'm going to say the first, the way I've heard it, was the first guy in the history of pro wrestling to actually get a guaranteed long-term contract from WWE, from World Wrestling Federation, which started a trend. Started a trend for a lot of people, and a lot of people were shook by that, you know. But obviously, it's like Jerry Jarrett says, everybody gives and everybody does give Jerry Jarrett credit for being the most successful promoter in the history of pro wrestling, and being so smart because he ran the same venues for 30 years in Drew before they had to close the doors. And you know what Jerry says? I'm not that smart, but I am smart enough to hire people smarter than me to do things that I don't know how to do. So Henry is smart in that sense, in that street sense. The man is in fact an Olympian. I believe he won a strongman at the Arnold Classic. I mean, what can you say about this guy's accolades and the amount of discipline, you know, that this guy has, you know? It's a shame, and I'm going to call it lipstick on a pig, that he's currently working for AEW, but bless him, he's getting paid, because those guys just aren't smart enough to take anything from Mark Henry and learn from Mark Henry. And at some point, when Tony Khan's done getting his jollies and spending his inheritance while his dad's alive, Mark Henry will probably find his way back to WWE and be an integral part of talent development because he's got so much to offer. The way I hear it is he didn't like wrestling when he broke in. He wasn't, quote, end quote, a fan. He didn't love pro wrestling by any stretch of the imagination. That I know to be true. But boy, oh boy, did he learn the ropes inside and out when it came to politics, and also what to do to build yourself back up. It's a whole nother realm that wrestlers today even don't think of. At the end of the day, the wrestling business is a business, but for the love of the business, don't give me that crap. That's guys that never made it, and you're not wrestlers because you don't work every night. You don't work 5 days a week. You never have, and you never will. Mark Henry is a wrestler. Smart guy. The other thing I read about him is he travels alone when he's on the road. Reason being is not because he's an asshole, not because he's an antisocial individual, but because he doesn't want to get caught up in any of the drama. He doesn't want to be around anybody that could possibly get him in trouble, or the association could get him in trouble, and that's how a successful professional thinks. Now let's go to the part, my personal rubs, what I know personally about Mark Henry. Number one, if you don't know it, I'm the guy that gave CM Punk his first handful of pro wrestling matches, and he credits me for that. Thank you. Adam Pearce, same thing. I trained Adam Pearce. I retrained Adam Pearce. Adam Pearce, his thumbprint is currently all over the WWE television products. Casey James is as good, if not better, than both of those guys as performers as far as storytelling went. When he was a kid, I got him hired in the Memphis area where he got to go in ring with Lawler, in ring with Dusty Rhodes, and wrestle Dusty Rhodes before Dusty finally had to hang up the boots. And then he spent a year and a half down in Puerto Rico, and he was only supposed to be in there for 6 weeks in the first place. And before he even boarded the plane to come back to the States, I had him a WWE tryout. He didn't go to NXT or the developmental territory. He was told to meet them in a town to show them what he had. So, Casey was there, and Casey knew a lot more than most of that roster at the time did. And one of the things he knew that most of that roster didn't know was how to draw money. Because he was, in fact, in mains and semi-main events for that year and a half in Puerto Rico, selling up to 15,000 tickets and change once a month in their big events. That being said, when he used to go and he didn't have to do it, but he wanted to work every day, when he would go and work at OVW and cross paths with Mark Henry, who was not down there on the company's dime, down there on his own dime, he gave him some suggestions that Casey had never even thought about. And I was blown away myself because Mark Henry was right. And I thought, wow, what a transformation from a guy who wasn't even really into pro wrestling to be such a scholar of it at that point. Let's see. The other thing is this WrestleMania. There was a WrestleMania in Chicago, guys, and I don't remember the numbers and the dates like you guys do. But whenever the last time WrestleMania was in Chicago, Mark Henry faced The Undertaker in a casket match. And I didn't study, but I paid a bit of attention to the build-up for that and Mark Henry being claustrophobic, which was outstanding. It was in Chicago, where Chicago is such a rough crowd to please. I was a extra there, and I was a druid, or whatever the hell you call it there, that brings the casket out. And I was one of the casket bearers. And the funniest thing was Mark beforehand saying, "Don't you fuckers rib me. I really am claustrophobic. Don't be sitting on the casket. Get me the fuck back as fast as you can so I can get the fuck out of that casket." You know? And it was funny, and I played along. And I'm not going to piss off and fuck with and taunt an actual, real silverback size human being. But I busted balls a little bit. I don't think we were bae, Henry and I, but he definitely knew who I was, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. So at the end of it all, we were back there, and it's black, and it's dark, and all that stuff. Before we let him out, and everybody faded away, we were all dressed the same, and being so dark, he couldn't tell who did it. I took it upon myself to fart in said casket and close the lid. He didn't kill me over it, so that I give him a lot of credit for. Again, guys, at one point, this guy's going to be back, and he's got so much to offer. If the kids in AAW, black, white, pink, or brown, would just listen to this guy. He knows how to be a fucking star. He knows how to make money in the industry. He knows how to warrant said money. He knows how to work with the current climate today and keep his credibility, or at least get it back. I'm going to say keep his credibility through some goofy shit, but also get it back and warrant more money. All right, hope you guys are enjoying these black wrestlers you should know. Today again, Mark Henry. Please note, this is being done without YouTube ads or commercials, so please support Premier Pro Wrestling at Pro Wrestling Tees. There's some really cool shirts there. Please stream Premier Pro Wrestling's content on Pivot Share, and while you're here, please like and subscribe on YouTube. We're creeping up on 50,000 subscribers, and I'd really love to hit it as soon as possible. As everybody knows, it's going to do a world of wonder for our talent roster's momentum. Thanks for listening.